Hey, everybody, I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing. So glad that you're here with us today. And I'm truly delighted to welcome today's guest. It's another full circle moment for me because I've had the joy of being on her podcast, and she is so grateful, thoughtful, and as heart centered as they come. So today we have Irene Weinberg. She's a celebrated author, speaker, and the host of an internationally award winning podcast, Grief and Rebirth, which ranks number 2 in percent in podcast globally, which is so incredible. And Irene's story is amazing. Her work really centers on grief, healing, and spiritual awakenings. She has a great book called They Serve Bagels in Heaven, where she shares her profound spiritual awakening that followed the tragic loss of her husband in a car accident and the extraordinary spiritual messages that guided her through that journey. She has a new book out too called Good to the Last Drop, which invites us to embrace life's third chapter with meaning, courage, and love. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you again, Irene. It's nice to be with you today.
It's such a pleasure, Lisa, to see you again. And I have really wonderful news to start with. We just found out that I've gone from the top 2% to the top 1.5% of 3 million podcasts.
Oh my goodness. I'm not surprised. Your podcast is amazing, and so are you. So I'm not surprised at all to hear that.
I think I'll come back on 3 or 4 times so I can hear that again. Thank you.
Anytime you want, honey. I always got a spot for you at the table. You bet. You got it. So let's hear about your story. You know, what got you here? Because, you know, you've been through a lot and through an amazing transformation. Can you share your story just a little bit?
Absolutely, with pleasure. Well, I am amazed at what's gone on in my life also. I'll start my story about 25 years ago. I was a complete skeptic. I didn't believe anything in spirituality. I thought it was hooey. And the surprise was on me because one day I was washing dishes at my kitchen sink, which I guess you could say is meditative, but I didn't know that. And a message came into my head. And it said, the thought was, Saul has to go. Many lessons will be learned from his death. And I was washing dishes and my husband was watching a Jets game on TV in our family room. And I said, what is this? I'm thinking, it's awful. And I went over and I put it out of my head. You know, I was like, this is ridiculous. And I just sort of put it out of my head. I gave him a glass of water, I kissed the top of his head, and I went back into the kitchen. And 2 months later, I said nothing to him or anyone else because it was a crazy thought. And 2 months later, we were on the New York State Thruway coming home from a ski weekend in the Catskills. And I suddenly felt the car. We were going 72 miles an hour. And I suddenly felt the car go into a huge swerve. And I looked over and Saul was sound asleep at the wheel. And I called out to him and he woke up and he saw what was happening. He went to pull our car out of the swerve, but instead we took off like I was in a gigantic roller coaster. And as we flipped and I've had 4 surgeries as a result of this, the first time we flipped, we launched into the air and I got another message and it said to me, he's not going to make it, you are. Okay, we're absorbing this as we're a roller coaster rolling around. Get to the top of the flip, we hit really hard and we flipped back up and I left my body. All of a sudden I was in this great big dark, I said, where is this? Where am I? So now I'm no longer afraid of death, to tell you the truth, Lisa, because this happened and I was alive. My consciousness just left my body. Then all of a sudden I felt something like kind of energetically push me back into my body. It wasn't my time, I guess. And I completed that second turn. Then I completed the third flip. And as I landed on the side of the road, upside down, with the wheels spinning, the whole thing, I look over at my husband and I said, Saul, are you okay? And exactly what I was told had happened. I was next to the shell of my husband. His essence, the beauty of who he was gone. And I got in that moment, oh my God, I got these messages. We go on. He must still be with me. He's out of his body. I just got it. And now I watch a helicopter landing and 3 EMTs jump out of the helicopter and they start rocking my car back and forth to get it right side up. And as it bounces up, right side up. One of them reached his arms through my car, turned me around, and pulled me through the shattered window of my car. And as I'm sliding through my car, a male voice with a heavenly directive booms in my head and says, "Be loving and kind to everyone," as they lay me on the side of the road. Well, I don't know about everybody else listening, but that kind of changes your cells as they're multiplying. My husband is gone next to me. I've just gotten that. I had gotten the messages. Now I'm told to be loving and kind to everyone. So instead of, and I knew it was real because of what had happened to me. So instead of screaming and carrying on for myself, I started being loving and kind to everyone. Not that I'm not a loving and kind person by nature, but now all of a sudden you become very conscious. Oh, how am I behaving? What am I doing? Da da da. And so I started saying, "Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you for taking me. It's the weekend before Christmas. I so appreciate it." And when I get to the hospital, where they're going to perform the first of all these surgeries I needed and all, I'm like grateful to everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you. When they told me my husband was gone, I said, "Yes, I know, but I'm the luckiest woman in the world that I had this man in my life." I mean, everything about me was like that. And I got a call from the assistant to the surgeon who worked on me that night. And she said, "I have to tell you, you changed lives that night. No one ever saw anyone react with love and kindness the way you did to everyone who came near you." And I said to her, "Trish, I had a spiritual awakening." I said, "That's changing my life." But now I'm in the hospital 3 days, 2 blood transfusions, 19 stitches in an artery in the bottom of my foot. And that's just the beginning. And I go home and I'm dealing with all the awful stuff that you deal with on the earth plane, with the grieving and the heartache and the da 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 and the family and all their emotions and all of that. But I know something is up. And 6 weeks after the accident, I was just out of my wheelchair, just out of my surgery, the first surgery and all that, just starting to get past it. And I get a call from my dry cleaner. And if anyone knows me, I'm very friendly. I talk to everybody. So I would go into my dry cleaner. "How you doing? Blah, blah, blah." He said, "Irene, I wouldn't normally do this, but you seem very open-minded. And I want to share with you that 8 years ago, my wife and I lost our oldest son to a drug overdose. And we were beside ourselves. And we went to all these psychologists and psychiatrists, all these people. No one could help us till we found out the soul goes on to the other side. And we've been working with this person and this person and this person. We got this and that proof of that our son is on the other side. And we're going to be seeing someone who's going to be very famous one day. We did a video for him in 2 weeks. If you can come to our house, we'll drive you there." So I'm saying this on purpose because I was going to drive 5 counts to them, get in their car, and then they were going to drive me in another direction, another 5 counts away to where this event was. I didn't know what they were talking about, but I knew something was up. So I'm just coincidentally, I'm just now driving Saul's car. My car was so completely, destroyed. There were still pieces of it on the road 2 years later or whatever. They built a big fence for it and all that jazz. Anyway, so now I go, and this young man greets me at the door, and he says, "I don't even want to know your name. Go upstairs." It was John Edward, who when he was just starting out, there were literally 35 people in the room, and half of them were taking notes because it wasn't before voice recorders. So I go, and I'm a nervous wreck. You would think I was on a blind date or something. I have no idea what is going on here. But all of a sudden, it's like Saul waited for me to see these amazing messages coming through to people. And all of a sudden, John Edwards said to me, "I'm getting a message from a guy. He's talking about Dr. Pepper. Does anyone relate to Dr. Pepper?" And I nudged my dry cleaner. I said, "Oh my God, start writing. This is Saul." Because 15 years before he met me, Saul's brother, who was a big shot advertising guy on Madison Avenue, put Saul's name in a Dr. Pepper commercial. Dr. Pepper is east from California. Let's hear from the man in the street, Saul Weinberg, of all things. What he thinks about Pepper. And Saul used to laugh about it. There was no way that John Edward could know this. So now for 40 minutes, he's channeling my husband. He's telling me he died in a different state than where you live. He died in New York. We lived in New Jersey. He's telling me you're wearing his skier charm under your blouse. How does he know this? And on and on and on. And then the kicker that really knocked me out. My car was parked all those towns away. He's telling me you're driving his favorite car with Saul Z on the license plate.
Wow.
That car was parked towns away. There was no way that John Edward knew this. And now I know that my husband is really on the other side. I start to open up to this, and I start going to these different mediums and all, and they're all different. They don't know each other, but there's one message that, and Saul comes through however he can. He describes his toast to me through someone, the first way we ever kissed, the first meal I ever made him, what he was wearing the night he died. I mean, you name it. And the one thing that he's saying over and over, honey, we've been soulmates many lifetimes. There was a divine plan that if certain things didn't work out for me, I was going to go first. And you and I are going to work together from both sides of the veil. I'm like, what? Huh? But it felt right. Everything was right. So the first thing I did was I channeled him for my first book. I was told to write the book, and it's called They Serve Bagels in Heaven, because before we get our life reviews, someone who knows us on the other side, or few people who know us, they greet us and they get us acclimated to what we are going to experience. And Saul's mother met him with coffee and bagels in heaven. And I tell people, and if you want lox and cream cheese, that's fine. I'm sure that they have that there too. But
I'm not going unless they're serving that. I'm just saying.
Right. So that's how his mother met him before he's open to his life review. So now I in this book, I said, like, so how did you cross over? What was that like for you? What do they do about evil over there? Tell me more about this soulmate concept between you and me, and on and on and on. And the book has lots of 5-star reviews, and I thought I was done. Okay, heaven, job done. All of a sudden, one day I'm sitting here where you see me, and I suddenly get another message, and it says podcast. And I'm a baby boomer. I said, what am I hearing? What's a podcast? So someone I know said, oh, I can help you do that. Now I said, okay, I'm getting this message. And I really, because your show is the miracle of healing, I want everybody to think about how I was healing as all this is going on, because I'm getting a whole new perspective about everything in my life. And be loving and kind to everyone doesn't mean keep grudges, never forgive, la, 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 la. So I'm starting to, and I was also during this time working with a life transition coach. And now I'm opening up to mediums and energy healers and all of this. This is all new. And I'm not telling anyone in my world, Lisa, because they would have thought I was cuckoo, So like I'm doing all of this. So I come out with the book now, podcast. So who am I supposed to interview? And I thought, you know what? I could not have gotten through this accident without working with this life transition coach who literally taught me that how to go to a restaurant, eat by myself if need be, because hubby on the other side. So I worked with a life transition coach. I was going to mediums. I started opening up to energy healing, and I'm starting to hear like I had this, trauma from a past life and all this other thing. And starting to heal all of that. And so I'm going through all of this, and I said, I'm going to interview grief and trauma specialists, mediums, healers. And people were starting to say to me, how amazing how you are coping and doing this. It wasn't that I wasn't kicking my feet and crying and grieving, but I knew there was more. And he was coming through mediums, and it was an amazing beginning of healing for me. So even though I was still grieving, it kind of changed the shape of my grief, because I knew that there was more to the story. And so I thought, I'm also going to interview people who have been through really difficult times in their lives and healed and transformed their lives, because so many people were telling me that they were admiring that. Well, as we just said, it's a miracle. I mean, I'm now in the top 1.5% of 3 million podcasts. I'm streaming in 100 countries. I mean, it's been amazing, and I'm humbled by the whole thing, but I also know it's not me. just me. I'm the vehicle because they want this out, and it's helping so, like you are here with this, Lisa. We're helping so many people. So that's what I get from people. I mean, like, oh my God, I heard this message. It's exactly what I needed to hear. It refers, I had the similar trauma, and now you're giving me hope that I can overcome it and all of that. So with all of that going on, I'm doing my thing, and I come out with the podcast, and this is going on. I write my other book also, which was that I got the message, write this other book, which is about good to the last drop, because they're telling me, and I'm definitely getting close to my last drop. I'm in my late 70s. So they're telling me that the legacy, I'm leaving such a legacy. So I decided to interview like 24 people who were in the third chapters of their lives. And instead of like being depressed and wondering every day, where am I going for dinner? And that's about it. These people were really doing wonderful things, good to the last drop. And I've had a lot of people say to me, oh my God, this story or that story so inspired me, or they're giving it to people who are retired or whatever. Okay, so now I'm on my merry way doing this. The other thing that I did was, because now I was becoming conscious and more enlightened, I had a very, very, very dysfunctional childhood. And my parents abandoned me for 23 years. Wow. Now, with all of this that's going on, I suddenly get a call, and I had a very wounded, abusive father. And I suddenly get a call from my mother, your father's had a stroke. And I said to my mother, what am I supposed to say about that, Mom? And they hadn't talked to me in 23 years. And she said, I know, because growing up in our home was very grim. I said, you admit that? She said, yes, I do. Now I've been doing all this healing. So I'm able to say to my mother, Mom, we had such a destructive, hurtful, negative environment in our home, and I pretzeled myself to make everything better for everybody. I've been in healing most of my life now, and I am not doing that anymore. And if you want a relationship with me, I have to be able to be very honest with you. I said, you closed every door you could to me, but I still have a sliver of a window open for you because I love you. So my mother said to me, what do I have to do? I got my mother going to therapy. My mother also had a meeting with my brothers and their wives and me, and with a therapist, and we worked at family reconciliation. It was amazing. So now not only am I healing, helping people to heal with the podcast and all, but in my own nuclear family, this healing is going on. And then there were other, which was like amazing. So I want to tell people, it's so amazing, because when my mother passed, which was about 4 years ago, I had no woulda, coulda, shoulda. I had worked through with my mother because I had the help with the healing modalities, and she was also open to do this. I got her to understand that she was a battered woman. I got her to, and I forgave her, because there were so many ways she let me down. She did not, or didn't protect me. I remembered how she used to run out of her bedroom at 2:00 in the morning crying. My father was making her crazy. And so I was able to, through the healing and through the family conversation, the other thing she told us was another reason that she didn't protect us like she could have. There was a gun in the house, and we didn't know that. And she was afraid. So now through the family meeting, we get to hear what happened to her. And the therapist said to her, who was working with us, she said to her, you're going to cry. Your kids are going to really, they were very hurt. They're going to really let their feelings out, and you're going to cry. So I'm going to work with you before you go into the meeting with them, and you and I are going to process afterward. It got so much better that my mother was having my whole family over. We were all reunited. And the most beautiful thing is, one of my brothers and I we had no relationship. I mean, I was zoned out of the family. And this one brother and I have become very close now, because we're healing, and we don't let any of that. We're conscious, and we don't fall back into any of the old patterns that we used to have, all the old hurtful judgmental, controlling, negative things that happened when we were growing up. It's such a wonderful thing when you heal. It's just so wonderful. So now you take me to this time of my life, and people are constantly saying to me, "Wow, you're in such good shape, or you're taking care of yourself, you're doing so well." And I tell them that it's all a matter of choice. Because when I got that message, be loving and kind to everyone, that included me.
Mm.
I took that as that included me too. So after that accident happened, and as I slowly healed, I kept healing emotionally too, and kept going through. And there were, I mean, I struggled, like I'm telling everyone, 23 years, no family, nothing. Nothing. My father called relatives and told them not to talk to me. If I called, they were to hang up on me, all this stuff. And what did I do? I could have killed myself. I could have had a nervous breakdown. Not Irene. I went to therapy. I am like the healing queen. Whenever I have a problem, who can help me? How can I process this in a different way?
So
So,
smart.
right. So this is how I've lived my life. So today, I have to say, I see so many people, Lisa, and they're bogged down by all their stories and their complaints and their this, but I don't have that. I'm not telling you that nothing triggers me, but at least I know when it triggers me that it's triggering me from something in my past, and it's drawing attention to something I need to pay attention to. So today, I'm very at peace. I just got off the phone, in fact, before our interview with my brother. Everybody, it's so much better. Not to say there aren't still toxic people in my life, but I've learned to identify them, and I've learned to detach from them with love. I don't have to get involved in their dramas. I don't have to go crazy with whatever's going on. I can say, you know what? You're going back into the old drama and the old pain, and I am not going there. So there are a few people that I've like send them blessings, but I've backed up from my relationship with them. And that happens to be extremely freeing when you're living your life, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my book that I'm working on now is about inner child work.
There you go.
It's so important. Yeah. I think you're such an inspiration, I think, for the healing work that you've done on yourself, that you help other people do, your transparency with your story. I'm so curious about something. I mean, do you feel like you were psychic before this all happened and you just didn't know? Or was it your kind of out of your near-death experience that when you
Heightened it.
came back in? Yeah. What do you think?
I think I have always had a knowing. I can remember playing in a tree house when I was 6 or 7 years old. And all of a sudden, this thought came into my mind. One day you're going to be married to a wonderful man, and you're going to love him very much. And you're going to have this, wonderful relationship. How did I know this? First, I had not such a wonderful man. I had a marriage before, and I got divorced. And then I was with Saul, but it was true. And another thing, I think that, I used to have like feelings about things. I sort of knew things, but I didn't identify it as that. I'm not clairvoyant, but I must be clairaudient. But I don't get a lot of messages, Lisa. But I did get the messages that came into my head during the accident. I did get the message podcast. I did get the message good to the last drop or whatever. So I think that I had this, but I never honed it to make it like even better or accelerate it. So what I have done during this experience that I've had is I figured out I'm a vehicle. I've healed enough that I'm an open enough vehicle for them to bring other people who in and gather other people through the podcast and other things that I do who can help people to heal. But yeah, I think that I also had angelic help, and I didn't connect with that because I have a sole purpose here, right? So I remember being 13 years old and having this religious ceremony in my synagogue. And after I was done, this 90-year-old man came up to me in front of the whole community. Nobody knew him. Nobody ever had any knowledge of him. And he said, he put his hands on my head And he said, this little girl did such an amazing job. La 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 la. And he blessed me. And then he walked
Mm,
out of the synagogue and nobody knew who he was and nobody had
wow.
any recollection. I think that was an angelic visitation in a way, forecasting what I was going to be doing today.
That's super cool. I love that.
Right?
Well,
I mean, and then I can remember, I mean, I've had a couple of instances in life where things got very dicey and then somebody suddenly showed up for me and helped me,
mhm.
but I didn't know who it was, and the person never stayed in touch. They just sort of came, helped, and disappeared from my life. So I think that a lot of times we're not aware of the help that we're getting because we all
Yeah,
have angels and spirit guides and spirit teams and all, which I know now. I didn't know then. And if you
right.
think about all that I've been through, it all sort of led to the wisdom of this moment,
So incredible. It's
right?
so
I mean,
incredible. So, I mean, like, if people wanted to get in touch, watch your podcast or read your books, how would they get in touch with you?
with such pleasure. Please come and join us. Um, the I have you can access me through two different sites. You can put in griefandrebirth.com, which is my podcast. And you can tell now why I named it Grief and Rebirth, because it's all
Yeah.
about grief, healing, transformation, and helping yourself to become more healed and more free. And then you can also go to ireneweinberg.com.
Mhm.
And we have all kinds of wonderful things we're continuing to do because my audience now, I mean, I'm moving on to, I think by the end of the year I'll be at 1 million downloads, which is like I am so humbled by this, Lisa. It's like amazing to me. And it all started with be loving and kind to everyone.
It's not surprising to me because your energy is so pure and so fun and so delightful, that I think people feel that and want to be a part of it and want to connect with you. And it's I just want to thank you for being on the podcast today and also for all the work you're doing in the world for
Thank
your
you.
podcast, for the books that you're doing, for being that sort of lighthouse. You're like a lighthouse that really spreads the light around the world. So thanks for that.
And
I
part of my
appreciate you so much.
lighthouse is knowing you. We're
Aw,
all we're
we're
all in
all
this
connected.
together, you
I
know,
know. Yeah, we are.
helping our hurting planet, helping people.
Yes. So thank you so much, Irene. I love
My
to hear your
pleasure.
story. It's always such an inspiration. And thanks all of you guys for tuning in to hear this incredible story. I hope you run right out and read Irene's books and get her podcast numbers up. We got to hit the high
Yeah,
notes here.
please.
I know we will.
And you can talk to me on through my website. Leave me a line. Tell me what you
Yeah,
think and tell me, how you like the book or whatever.
love that. That's so beautiful. And if you
And
want to,
check out Lisa's interview on my podcast.
yeah, that was so fun. I love that. It was such a great. We had such a great time.
Yeah, we
And if
did
you
too.
guys want to find me, you can find me at lisacampion.com. I work with psychics, healers, and empaths who are just opening up to their gifts, or maybe they want to, really train up their gifts. I love to work in that space. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here on the Miracle of Healing, where we are healing the planet one person at a time right here on the Empower channel.